Hello, everyone. Are we live and in the flesh, I believe, right? Or at least virtual flesh. Are we good, Laura? Hello. Can everyone hear us? I
Yeah.
think so. We see participants, the count going up. I'm Christine Schachter, the Government Affairs Director for Tri-Counties. This is my colleague, Tim Shaw, another Government Affairs Director. And Mary Harmon would like to introduce everyone here on the call and welcome you as President of Tri-Counties.
Mary, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
She's still on mute. We had her on mute. Our fault.
In the meantime, guys, I just got a text from the congressman and he just finished voting, so he'll be joining us shortly.
Okay, great. So we will be having this virtual town hall with Representative or Congressman, either one works, Gil Cisneros, and Mary will provide an introduction of him once he gets on the call, and she'll kick things off. And Laura Halverson is our Executive Vice President of Tri-Counties. Mary, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We're having, I'm having a problem.
Oh, well, why don't we
She got muted.
Oh, she got
Okay,
muted.
I'm gonna go ahead and take over, guys.
Never mind. I got
Can you hear
it.
me, Mary?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's legislative update. Sorry for all those technical difficulties. I'm a bit challenged. I'm Mary Harmon, your 2020 president. This should be an exciting event with a lot to cover. So before we get underway, I would like to make some introductions of some of the people that helped to make your association and these events a success, whether virtual or in person. Brian Yates, our president-elect. Larry Black, he's our secretary treasurer and a past president of Tri-Counties. Rick Violet, our NAR federal political coordinator, our FPC. Laura Halverson, our executive vice president. Phil Hawkins, our CEO, and Tim Shaw and Christine Schachter, our government affairs directors. Our special guest that will provide us with the legislative, I guess I should, with a legislative update, is Congressman Gil Cisneros, an American philanthropist and a veteran and politician serving as the U.S. representative for California's 39th Congressional District. Representative Cisneros currently serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Veterans Affairs Committee. He's also a member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and the Bipartisan Four Country Caucus. He is a staunch advocate for our national defense, our service members, and veterans. Representative Cisneros has lived in California his entire life and is familiar with the California housing market. He's been a staunch supporter of realtor issues, including his efforts to lift the cap on the state and local tax deductions, easing the burden on homeowners. Passed the HEROES Act to increase funding for essential workers and their families in the state during the pandemic, and protect small business expenses and the funding they need to sustain. Representative Cisneros, he hasn't arrived yet. He'll be here soon. So I'm going to pass it over to Christine and Tim to provide us with a little bit of color and update before he gets here.
Sure. Why don't we actually, Rick Violet is the federal political coordinator for Representative Cisneros, and he can talk a little bit about that role and what it means at FPC and how we liaison at the national, state, and local level. And here we have Representative Cisneros. Welcome.
Thank you, Congressman.
Oh, no, thank you. Sorry, I'm late.
On behalf of my, no, not a problem. On behalf of myself and Tri-Counties Association of Realtors, we'd like to thank you for your service and all your efforts. Now, before we get started, everybody, please be sure to submit your questions in the question and answer box, and Rick Violet and I will relay the questions to the representative. This is the legislative update on real estate issues, so please refrain from discussing politics, the election, or fundraising. And now I think it's time to turn this over to our special guest, Representative Cisneros. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much, President Harmon, and I want to thank the Tri-Counties Association of Realtors for inviting me to talk to you all today. And I want to thank my friend Rick there for being here as well. Look, I know these months have been really challenging for our communities and our families, but I couldn't be more proud of how we've all come together to help each other out. It's this determination, resilience, and selflessness that's really helped us get through this crisis, or helping us continue to get through this crisis, I should say. Realtors, you're all on the front line of this pandemic too, dealing with the economic consequences of COVID and seeing the impact firsthand, dealing with low morale due to low inventory and a confusing and challenging regulatory landscape. Every day you're out there helping homeowners understand insurance policies and challenging regulations and protections that are available. It's clear that this pandemic has put a huge strain on California's housing issues. Countless people are struggling to pay their bills and make ends meet, and it's why I've championed provisions and voted to pass legislation that provides direct financial assistance to help pay for rent and mortgages. I've supported small business legislation and sent out letters to the SBA to ensure that all small businesses they're not getting left behind. But my work in Congress we still have a lot to do. I know the 39th district still needs relief. Just this week, I sent a letter with my Republican Democratic colleagues urging the Speaker and the Majority Leader to bring a new, or I should say the Minority Leader, to bring a new bipartisan coronavirus relief bill to the floor before we leave Washington. We need to break through this gridlock and help families keep their homes, and mom and dad and landlords keep make sure that they're able to still continue to run their business. I've also been a champion for repealing SALT, and we did that at the end of last year. The House voted to do that, and I want you to know that my door is always open, and I won't stop fighting for you. We don't know, when this pandemic's going to end, but I'm here to help, all of you get through this and to work with you to make sure that we can all get through this intact and really kind of, helping our realtors through this process.
Hey, thank you, sir. We're going to start with some questions now. The first one is, how has the pandemic affected the role of government, and what has changed in your mind the most?
Well, it's the pandemic is really it's become our main focus, during this time, right? The government shifted gears, where the majority of our work has been really to kind of help us get through this pandemic. We are still doing some other stuff. Like yesterday, we did do a veteran suicide bill that I had legislation that was part of that. We need to make sure that we still kind of pass things like that. But most of the legislation that we've been working on has really been focused on how we can help the country and help workers and help small businesses get through this pandemic. It's been our number one priority. Constituent services, in my office was one of our top priorities, but during this pandemic, it's been all hands on deck. Even my legislative assistants, who really kind of just, their main focus is to deal with legislation and to help me out on my committees. They have been helping small businesses and focused on that during this pandemic. And that's really kind of been, our biggest focus, right? And how things have been changing and what's really happened and what we've been working on during this pandemic. But we've responded to like over 15,000, calls, emails, concerns about, the pandemic, and we'll continue to do that to make sure that we help families and we help businesses get through this.
Thank you. Realtors, along with our industry partners, have been urging Congress to act quickly on passing emergency rental assistance to help property owners, especially mom and pop landlords and small businesses who need to help cover bills that must continue to be paid. While the House previously passed the HEROES Act, which provides $100 billion to those making less than 80% of the area median income, this has not passed the Senate and is less than what the CDC or state will cover. The income limits placed in the CDC order are $198,000 for couples filing jointly and $99,000 for single filers. What do you see as the way forward in providing stable and dedicated rental, landlord, and small business assistance?
Look, it's clear that Congress needs to provide more direct support to help Americans stay in their homes. I've supported housing provisions that provide direct rent and mortgage relief payments and help mom and pop landlords. I was proud to support the HEROES Act, which included the legislation that provides $100 billion in emergency rental assistance to help those that have fallen behind on RIP payments. I understand that the provisions under HEROES are not as broad as the eligibility outlined by the CDC for the president's eviction moratorium, but this is still, I think it's still a good start. And with renters already owing an estimated $25 billion in back rent, which could spike to as high as $70 billion by the end of the year, the Senate needs to act. We've been working to negotiate and come up with a viable path forward, that the White House can get behind and the White House can support. It's unfortunate right now that I think the Senate, left today. We are going to be back next week. I think they are only coming back for one day next week to vote on the continuing resolution that will keep the government open. And thank God we're not going to shut down the government during this pandemic. But, we need to come together and provide this relief that's going to help our small businesses, which all our realtors are all small businesses. And we need to provide relief that's going to help the American people, help renters pay their rent and help homeowners pay their mortgage.
Thank you. We remain supportive of efforts to ensure struggling Americans can remain in their homes. As 38% of realtors own at least one rental property, while more than 40% of rental units across the nation are owned by mom and pop landlords, to get money into the hands of people who need quickly and directly some potential funding mechanisms that could be expanded to include using existing local housing authorities such as HUD Section 8 programs, allow landlords to qualify for PPP forgivable loans to cover lost rental income, create a fundable tax credit for landlords. As California lacks a single entity with an existing infrastructure that could easily disperse rent checks to landlords statewide, what might be a way for the federal government to provide funding more directly than giving a single lump sum to the state government for disbursement?
No, I think you bring up some good ideas there, and we already saw how successful direct payment assistance is, and forgivable loans can be rather than directing assistance through other mechanisms. According to census data, over 45 million homeowners and 34 million renters use federal aid provided under the CARES Act, like expanded unemployment benefits and direct payment assistance, stimulus checks, effective tax credits to pay their bills. I've been championing expansion of the PPP program, both to provide a second round, since we have businesses that continue to be impacted by the shutdown. I say this all the time, the PPP loan was only supposed to help people get through a couple months, but we're in month 6 right now. We need to make sure that we provide more assistance to that. We also need to expand it to 501(c)(3)s as well, those type of nonprofits that haven't been able to collect dues because businesses have been struggling. And so, we need to provide them relief as well. One of the biggest things that I hear from constituents back home who've taken advantage of the PPP is that more funding is needed for rental assistance.
Yes. As you know, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, I call them FHFA, has instructed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to hold off on the implementation of a new adverse market fee on all mortgage refinances until the end of the year. The proceeds from the fee will be used to cover $6 billion in projected losses, including an estimated $4 billion in loan losses and $1 billion in servicer compensation. What does a post-conservative framework look like for the GSEs?
So, look, I recognize that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been under government control for a lot longer than it was supposed to be. I think it's been about 12 years. Um, Look, I support a transition out of conservatorship. I hope some concerns that the agency has not been prioritizing recovery for homeowners and renters struggling with the realities of COVID, though. Um, for example, the adverse market fee you referenced, which has now been delayed, has potential to raise costs for households during this crisis instead of making home ownership easier and more accessible. Whether intended or not, the proposed fee has the appearance of prioritizing increased capital to help boost their transition rather than helping Americans. At this unique time, I think Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should focus on supporting Americans through recovery and providing liquidity to underserved communities rather than generating income through fee. Looking ahead past the crisis, I appreciate some of the elements of the framework prepared by the National Association of Realtors, which some of you, you were over my office earlier, previously, meeting last year. You support moving Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac into publicly relegated private utility model. But, right now, the COVID crisis, this pandemic has got to be our top priority in getting us through this crisis, with some economic stability. And we need to do what we can, and really, we need to make sure that we create that economic stability for our homeowners out there, for those that have mortgages, because the last thing that we want to see is another mortgage crisis like we had back in 2008, where the market is crashing, people can't pay their mortgages. So it's not the best thing, I think, right now for them to kind of add these additional fees when so many are really struggling to pay their mortgages right now. And so getting through the pandemic with economic stability has got to be our top crisis, our number one priority for businesses and homeowners, as well as the safety and health of the American people.
Thank you. The renewal of the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, is a perennial issue for realtors as more than 22,000 communities are impacted nationwide. However, as currently structured, the NFIP is not financially sustainable over the course of time. Unfortunately, we may begin to see similar issues occur with fire insurance, especially on the West Coast. Rebuilding as well costs a lot of money, plus add disaster economics, and those that are underinsured and costs increase drastically. How might Congress and even government locally via federal programs begin such insurance programs in the long term?
Look, one of my biggest frustrations with Congress is that we continue to lurch from crisis to crisis rather than making investment to help us survive disasters. There's one study out there that says for every dollar invested in mitigation, we save $6 in rebuilding cost. We can't be reactive all the time and just always be ready to cut a check, after every disaster. We need reform.
Yes,
I support efforts to provide federal backstops to ensure insurance programs work for the American people. And, for instance, I introduced the Never Again Small Business Protection Act with my Republican colleague, Rep. Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, to require that business interruption insurance provides a coverage for businesses and nonprofits for losses stemming from national emergencies. We have to plan for the future, and like you said, right, we know these floods occur all the time. We know we can pretty much count on now fire season all the time here on the West Coast. We need to plan for these emergencies, and we just can't be reactionary all the time.
Thank you. Both the state and federal governments have programs to help tenants pay their rent, but in a lot of cases, the money is not getting to the landlord, who in turn can't pay their mortgage. With 46% of landlords being small mom and pop owners, this is a problem. the property is at risk for foreclosure, placing the tenant at risk of being displaced. Rick, I need you to finish this one. I'm
Let me
sorry.
unmute here. Congressman, would you be interested in creating a real estate think tank or advisory board and work with us, the realtors, so we can become more proactive in minimizing any negative impact in our communities and for your constituents?
Look, the first thing I'll say is, talking to some of those mom and pops that whether it be that really kind of own commercial properties, talking to them, they've told me that it's the small businesses, right, that have been really kind of struggling and working to make sure that they can pay the rent, and it's been a lot of these larger corporate renters that have been kind of really just kind of passing the buck and not doing it. Look, I think this is a great idea. I know it's something that you have brought up to me before, Rick, and it's something that we need to work on and we need to get in place. But I appreciate the support of the realtors, and I appreciate your wisdom. And this is, home ownership. It's an important topic, for the vast majority. I mean, pretty much everybody in the country. The home is going to be the largest purchase that they ever make. It is the largest representation of the wealth that they have. And we need to work with our realtors to make sure that we protect that and that we have plans in order to go forward, to make sure that everybody can benefit from this, from home ownership. And I know I've said this, time and time again, that, you guys really go out there and create the American dream. Really, that's what it is, home ownership. And so you help that happen, you make that happen. And I would, be honored to kind of work with you all to create this think tank and use your wisdom so that we can make sure that we establish goals and guidelines to really to help protect these investments for the American people.
I think
Thank you, sir.
part of what Mary's looking at, the most recent example is with the CARES and everything else, you had all this forbearance and everything else. And most of the consumers didn't even know how to approach it, how to get involved in doing this. And they didn't know the consequences of it as well. If you're applying for a refi and you got forbearance, that counts against you. Some people didn't know who to call. So we're looking at if somebody would bounce those ideas off the realtors or the mortgage brokers or whoever ahead of time before some of these are enacted, or at least have a way to put out a notification of a resource center in your, I know you've been sending out all your literature as far as the COVID updates. And I think if we had something like that, we could bounce it off and people could reply back and stuff. So whether it was setting it up in the future with Martin or somebody locally like that, I think that would be a great way to have that resource.
Yeah.
I can interject something, if I may. We all understand that, housing is probably one of the biggest components of our economy. Every time a house sells, it creates jobs. And along the same lines that it's the biggest investment that most people will ever make, and that's their wealth. So what we're hoping to accomplish, and thank you so much for saying yes, is that I want to be a little bit persistent so that we can make a date to meet sooner than later to protect the constituents in our communities so that people can be proactive instead of waiting till the end, so that they understand what it is that they need to do to protect their homes so they're not in jeopardy of being lost in foreclosure, or they don't succumb to some of those shysters that are out there that will help them for a great deal of money,
right,
kind of thing. So we just want to sit down with you and or your staff so that we can formulate something so that we can be proactive instead of waiting till it happens. Let's get out in front of it to prevent another 2008.
No, I totally agree with that. And I will have Martin, I will have call him. I will have him call you tomorrow, Rick and Mary, and we'll start working on this and kind of set it up and kind of talking about how we can meet and kind of talk about what we need to do, moving forward to make sure that, like you just said, Mary, uh, making sure people have the information that they need to protect themselves and
Yes.
what's available to them.
Maybe
No,
in
more
fact,
than
some
happy to-
type of a toolbox or something that, yeah, we can
Right.
help them with.
No, I appreciate that.
Okay, it looks like we have a question in the question and answer box. Do you
Yeah,
want to take that, Rick?
I think Brian's question was more to, state vis-a-vis federal and opening up and stages and what that looks like. I know that was more of a state question, but as the congressman alluded to, is the impact on, mom and pop businesses and what that means going forward, especially in light of any future packages.
Well, look, I think I've been advocating for this. We need to continue. We need another package, right? It's the way we're going right now. It's just. I was talking to a guy who owns a restaurant out here in DC. Well, actually, it's in Northern Virginia, and he's telling me it's like, well, it's not as bad. Things are getting better. Instead of revenue being down 90%, it's only down about 50% right now. And so, that's no way to kind of really run a business, right? And so they need the help and they need the support, and especially our restaurants that are out there that are, out in California, right? They're down, what is it, 25% right now, that capacity. They're starting to let some people inside now, inside the restaurants, but it's still, not the service that they're used to or what they need to go and to be viable and profitable. So, we need to get this package done. We need to do something. We need to come together. The president said he's good with a package. He said he wants the larger number. He said around $1.5 trillion. We need the Senate to kind of work with us to get to that number, if not maybe a little higher. We need to make sure that we're going to provide relief to workers and to our small businesses, and to really, even on my flight flying out here to DC this week, I got a letter from one of the flight attendants, saying about how, important it is that we kind of keep the airline industry going, because, they're looking to get laid off right now, their pilots and their flight attendants, and about how they need more relief. It's just, we know, and the Federal Reserve has said, is that we need to throw more money at this to help support it in order to keep everything viable. And we need another relief package to get us through this, and we need to develop a vaccine that is going to help us get everybody vaccinated, so that we can go start working towards getting back to life as we remember it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Short break or intermission here. Tim, my colleague, and your colleague from George Washington University wanted to show you his alum material right here.
You have to bring it closer, Tim.
I can't see the little sign, Tim.
For those watching, Congressman
there you go.
Cisneros and I both went to George Washington University. So in your honor, also, Congressman, I wore the tie.
I think he still has the tag on, though. Maybe he's taking it back.
He's sending it back.
Yeah. We wanted to remind participants to go ahead and put your questions in the question and A box, and we will then follow up on that. A big topic that has come about both statewide and federally, Congressman, is fair housing. And I know Rick can speak to his work on the national level, but that's a huge issue. You talk about creating wealth through housing investment, and for families, that's a big part of their wealth creation. What does that look like on the landscape nationally?
Well, it is, right? We need fair housing. We need to make it available to everybody out there that wants to go out and to buy a home. We need to create those opportunities to make it available. Look, I bought my first home in what year was it? I think it was 1999.
But we were going to date you.
Yeah. But I used a government program. I was a veteran at the time. I was actually serving on active duty. I used a government program, the VA home loan, in order to make my first purchase.
Zero down.
We need programs like this that are going to help put people in homes. Um, that'll do that, right? I mean, it's been a long time, right? But the whole saving and loans thing, right? That was all about created, back in the early part of the 20th century, around the 30s, to really help people buy their home. And we need these type of programs that are going to help people be able to afford a home, to buy a home, and to kind of really start creating that wealth. And really, it is something to have that. When you own a home, you take care of it, right? You feel that pride of going out there and mowing the lawn and doing those type of things. So it's just we need to create that thing, right? And we can't let the American dream, die, which is still a big part of that is being a homeowner.
Do you feel with the way the pandemic, we're looking at probably not having a vaccine until like a year from now, maybe 6 months from now if we're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see our current status in the economy continuing the way that it is right now?
Look, I'm hoping, I mean, there's still going to be things that we need to do, right? I think when you listen to the scientists out there, right, it's important, the social distancing, wearing them. I mean, the head of the CDC said, last week that, he held it up and said, this is the most important tool that we have to to fight the vaccine. I mean, to fight the virus right now, it's wearing a mask. And we can take these steps out there and kind of keep ourselves safe and get out there and still do things. I mean, look, my family, I'm not going to tell you what restaurants, so nobody comes and chases me down, but with my wife and my kids, every Sunday, we go out to dinner, and that's part of our thing, right? But we go out, and we make sure that we're safe. We all wear our mask, and I think we can continue to do that, right? We can, Dr. Fauci has even said, right, we don't have to stop our lives. I mean, obviously, if you're in a group where, you have health concerns, you need to take extra precautions. But if we are doing the right things and taking the right steps, like following the CDC guidelines, wearing a mask, making sure that we're sanitizing and washing our hands, trying to maintain a distance like we're supposed to, social distancing, we should be safe to go out and to go about our business and to go out and to do things. I think we still want to take those safety precautions. I think a lot of businesses are still kind of saying, if you can work from home, continue to work from home. But if we do the right thing and we take the right steps, I think we can still continue to gradually open up our economy and open up our businesses.
Congressman, I wondered if we could get a little more detail on the SALT deduction issue. And just for the benefit of those who are watching who might not be fully up to speed, I thought I'd set the table and remind everyone that before you were in Congress and early in President Trump's presidency, there was a big federal tax reform. And of course, it used to be that every dollar you paid in state and local taxes, dollar for dollar, could be deducted from what you owed on your federal taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But as part of this tax reform, and the effort was to lower tax rates and to, frankly, eliminate or cap a lot of deductions, and with the idea of simplifying the tax code. But one thing that the Realtor Association did not care for was instead of being able to deduct every dollar of your state and local taxes, they capped it at $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly for California, where our state and local taxes tend to be higher than in the rest of the country, it was probably disproportionately, heavy on California taxpayers. And I know you've been, since joining Congress, been working on this, so perhaps you could let us know what's going on with that.
Look, this is something, we passed in the House of Representatives. We passed at the end of last year. It's something I've been working on, with my colleague, Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey. um, who's also, the same, they're in the same situation over there in New Jersey that we are here in California. Um, Look, I'll be frank and honest with you. It's probably not going to happen by the end of this year, but I think that is something that we can do. Hopefully, in the next Congress, uh, pass it again. There's support to pass it again in the House of Representatives. Hopefully, we'll have that support next time around in the Senate, and we can get it signed. But this argument is just ridiculous, where they say we're going to give a tax break to millionaires and billionaires by reinstating this SALT tax. And it's I think where I live, right, in Yorba Linda, I mean, these are it's not cheap to live there. And it's, the cost of a house is, it can be northwards of $1 million. But, look, maybe this is a bad example, but, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they're not living there. The majority of the people that are working there are working families, most of them two incomes, that are going, just trying to go and to make sure that they can pay their mortgage and work and provide for their family. They're not millionaires. They may be a millionaire technically, I guess, when you look at, like we talked about, your home being your largest investment that you have, your largest share of your wealth. But they're not cash millionaires. They don't have $1 million in the bank or in stocks. It's all in their home. And so we need to go back and provide this relief. It's going to help middle class families. It's going to help lower income families. And so these are the things that we need to do, and we need to make sure that we get this passed. And I'm hopeful that we will pass it one day. I don't think it's going to happen right now as we kind of move into October and towards the end of the year. But I know it's something that I have confidence again that we will bring up again in the House in the next Congress, and it'll pass the House again. And next time, hopefully, we will have support in the Senate and the presidency as well.
I would add to that, if I could, that it will also, if they bring it back, I think it will help stimulate home ownership as well, because for a lot of people right now, it's just as easy to take a standard deduction.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to say you can write off your taxes, the interest and everything else, and then have that limit come in and chop the legs out. And that's the way we felt what it did to the marketplace.
No, look, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? But everything, a lot of things that I do are based around my own experience, my own life experience. And I remember paying taxes before I bought that first house. And I remember paying taxes after I bought that first house. And, the tax return that I got enabled me to kind of go out and to do, more things and invest in things. And so it's like, right, it provides a stimulus to the economy. And, it's something that we need to do. And look, why do I have faith in that we'll be able to pass it? We haven't been able to do it now. Why do I think we can do it in the next Congress? I sit on the Veterans Affairs Committee. Last Congress, the Blue Water Navy bill, which was a bill to help our veterans that, may have never touched ground in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. But they served on a ship, maybe in the Navy, maybe in the Coast Guard, but they served on a ship that was was off the coast of Vietnam. We're still exposed to Agent Orange, but because the way it was written, the law was written, is if you never served in country, you didn't qualify, even though you were serving from the same side effects. That didn't pass in the last Congress, in the 115th Congress, but we were able to get it done in this Congress. So sometimes it takes a while to get things done, but I have faith and confidence that we will be able to get it done in the next Congress.
I also thank you on that same vein. I believe you were a strong proponent, or you might have introduced it to increase the veterans as far as loan limits.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Regarding the veterans loan limits.
Oh, yeah. No, it's something, and it's another thing that we need to work on too, is really to kind of make, when we talk about VA loans or FHA loans, it's right now it's done by county, and there are different parts of, and I think of San Bernardino County, which I think we have people from San Bernardino on this call. But yeah, right. The San Bernardino is the largest county in the country, and the drastic shifts in home costs throughout the county, it doesn't work. I mean, if you live in a place like Chino, it's a lot different than if you're living in an area. I always forget the name of that town. What is the name of it?
Arso.
Barstow, or even that little town that you pass through on the way with the big thermometer on the way to Vegas. Baker. Right. It's not fair, if you're living in these different areas, right? If you're living in Chino, that your rate is based on the fact of what home costs are in Barstow or in Baker. We need to kind of make it more geographical, more regional, around your geographic region where you live. That's something we need to work on.
Good
I
point.
think that thermometer out in Baker probably exploded during the last heat wave. I think it was 130 out there. You weren't for that. Maybe you were back in DC, but a little
It
hot.
probably,
Yeah,
no,
speaking,
I got a little bit of the heat wave. I did when I was out in California.
speaking along those lines, I had a veteran that wanted to live in Chino Hills, and I had to take him to Laverne because Laverne was LA County, and
Mhm.
it could fit the loan amount that we were looking for the type of house he wanted to buy. Couldn't
Right.
do it because it was San Bernardino County.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
right.
And Vic, maybe you want to talk about Prop 19, just because although it's California based, it's important to talk about how it could be modeled possibly nationwide. Not necessarily the Prop 13 impacts, but just the right sizing of housing.
The portable tax bill. It's created to assist senior citizens, 55 and older, severely disabled, and people that are victims of disaster like the wildfires, that they're able to transfer their tax base, their property tax base, to wherever they go. Currently, right now, I believe we have 58 counties in the state of California, and approximately 11 counties cooperate with each other. So if you want to move from like LA County to San Bernardino County, they'll cooperate, but you can only do it one time. So you have a lot of senior citizens, especially, that may size, and they're living in a 3,000, 4,000, two-story house, and they want to move into, a 2,000, 1,800 square foot house that's single story, and they can't. They're trapped because they're afraid if they make that move, they're going to be caught paying a higher property tax bill that makes it unaffordable. So with Proposition 19, it allows them to take their tax base with them, and they've done the study. It's beneficial to everybody concerned, and it helps to turn over the properties. So now that existing property that senior citizen lived in, where they're paying $1,000 a year for property taxes, now gets resold. It gets reassessed, and the property taxes increase. That senior citizen moves to another home that's smaller, and they get to keep it balances out.
We also eliminated any price restrictions. You can actually buy up. You could take a much larger property that's inland, and yet you wanted to go to a condo down at the beach that actually might be more expensive, but you're downsizing. And we put it in there for 3 times there, but we also got it in there for fire victims, natural disasters, and disabled people, where if they have to move, if you're disabled and you're in a 2-story place, you need to find a single story, you shouldn't have to be reassessed at much higher taxes. So it's all protected in there, and stuff on that. But we're doing good on the initiative, and it basically leads us into, that we're looking for everyone to get out there and vote this year. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, we got to make sure everybody gets out there and votes. That's definitely something. Look, I
Absolutely.
would just say on Prop 19, don't let and I say this in jest with fun. Take it serious. Don't let people like me take advantage of this. What I mean by that is I can pay my share of taxes,
Congressman, we don't discriminate.
Yeah.
It's fair housing.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have any other questions?
Congressman, I'll ask a question. You know, we're seeing this year probably by far the record-setting budget deficit for the federal government in a year, probably by, what are we at in the neighborhood of, I was just trying to look, I think around $3 trillion just this year alone. I would assume, you know, thinking back to my economics class, when the federal government kind of goes berserk with debt, that might start to deal, you know, bring in inflation, and maybe we start seeing a rise in interest rates to combat the inflation. And of course, for our industry, higher interest rates really spell trouble. So, I mean, are you able to shed any light on that scenario? Do you think that might be playing out as we see this amount of debt coming out of the federal government that might start pushing up interest rates?
Well, look, I mean, I'm concerned about the debt too, but you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic that has caused, you know, a lot of devastation to our economy, and we're still kind of looking forward to go until, you know, if what the CDC is saying, you know, maybe until the middle of next year before we have a vaccine. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we're opening, and we talked about this a little earlier, right? How we can start to kind of open more as long as we follow the guidelines, but they're still going to need to provide relief and stimulus in order to help people get through this. I think the consequences right now, as if we were to do nothing, and there are 25 people in the Senate that have said we're not going to vote for any more package. It's all about the, you know, we can't add any more thing to the debt. So it's, you know, basically you're on your own. I don't think that's the right approach. You know, we need to make sure that we kind of do what we can on the front end to help people get through this, because if we don't do that, you know, we are going to have another mortgage crisis. We are going to have more people out of work. Businesses are going to continue to fail if we don't help provide them with relief to get through this. And then we're going to be in a lot worse situation, you know, trying to help, you know, work through that. And then it's only going to add more to the debt. I mean, the chairman of the Federal Reserve has pretty much said, you know, the best way for us to kind of deal with this right now is to kind of really to invest in this problem, put money into this problem to help us get through this, than it would be to kind of pay it on the back end and try and help people then if we don't help them now.
Along those lines, didn't the economists also say that the first stimulus package that we received was a good thing because it helped to keep the economy stimulated?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting dire?
Right. No, and that's why we need to do it again. And that was part of, you know, the HEROES Act was another $1,200 stimulus check to families out there. We're trying to increase it actually more this time, so that, you know, some, I know there was restrictions on what child you can get a stimulus check for, or the amount of, you know, we were trying to make sure that, you know, if you have a child in college that you're still paying for, that you could claim them as part of your stimulus as well. So it's still a lot more that needs to be done. And even like, you know, kids that were working, right, that I think they should get some kind of thing on there, right, if they have a part-time job or they're doing something to help them out. But, you know, it is, right, you're right on, Mary. The economists have said we have got to, you know, help this out on the front end, because if we don't on the back end, it's just going to be a lot more expensive there.
Well, Tim has 6 boys, so he benefited from that child tax credit incentive. He single-handedly jolted the economy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of mouths to feed, a lot of cereal to buy.
Make that stimulus per child, make that as big as possible, Congressman. That's my humble suggestion.
Oh gosh, we have a question.
Oh, this gets into more California debt too, but I think
well, the federal government's role in helping states.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not just California, of course, but Illinois. I've read about some states that are really in deep water. What might the federal government do to help states that might be struggling?
No, look, we've been advocating for this, and I've been one of the biggest advocates. And if you can, if anybody talked to the speaker and they ask her, like, what has Gil Cisneros been bending your ear on, it would be about getting money back to not only our states, but also to our local governments, our cities and our counties as well, and not putting the restrictions that was put on the money to the counties early on, and not having a $500,000 population. Bottom line, 500,000 or higher, we're only going to be able to get relief money. We need this money to help out our local economies, to help out the states. And it's not about, the president wants to say it's about, bailing them out as if all this money is going to go to pay off pensions. It's not. It's going to be there to kind of pay the bills that are accumulating right now. To help make sure that we can keep our police officers and our firemen and all our first responders on the job to maintain public safety. This is what I've been fighting for, and why we need to bring back these dollars back, to our local government, and why it's so important. And a lot of our cities, I mean, this, Tim, you guys have been providing, checks to local businesses to help them kind of get through this pandemic. And I think it was La Habra, or maybe it was one of the other cities, but allowing them, providing them like grants so they can set up, dining outside. These are the type of things that our local governments have been doing in order to help local businesses, and they've been able to do that because of the federal dollars that they've gotten and that they've received. And we need to make sure that we continue to provide this money so they can help our local businesses as well, in any way possible to get through this pandemic.
Absolutely.
And that may be a good segue as we start to wrap up here, is how do people learn more information? I know we had a couple individuals or attendees who wanted to know how to get involved or get information from you, your newsletter, for instance. How do they get signed up and receive that information?
Just go to our website, cisneros.house.gov. And there you will get information of what's going on. You can sign up to receive our information and get on our email list. That's the best way to do it. So, but I will, offer everyone this. Look, I'll give you the number right now. Let me look it up. But if you go to if you give us a call, I guarantee that we will get back to you. And, when you go to the website, the first thing you're going to see is there to kind of go and to sign up for our email newsletter. But if you give us a call in our numbers, it's 714-459-4575. That's our district office number. You can go and we will get back to you. I guarantee, if you give us a call, and it could be about any issue that you want to discuss, we will call you back. So please, reach out to us. And it could be a question that you have, maybe more about real estate issues that are going on. If there's a certain something that you want to, ask us about, we are here to help. We are here to support you. So please reach out to us and let us know, what we can do or how we can help you.
Congressman, thank you for all your support, and please know that we're here to support you as well. And a friendly reminder, don't forget to tell Martin to call Rick tomorrow.
I will. I'm going to call him right now after we get off this call.
You use us, and I can tell you it'll make the world of difference. We can help fix everything.
Look, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the realtors, and like I said, my wife's family, her uncle, Hal Toller was a longtime realtor here in Orange County, and actually, his wife, my wife's aunt, Chris, is a realtor as well, and she's kind of, worked more kind of doing escrows and stuff like that. But we have family members, and we know how important this is. And look, I have real estate as well. It's a significant part of our portfolio, And we know how hard you all work to kind of get, like I said, really create the American dream for families. And so, I'm here to work with you and to see how we can do that. Like I said, I got, it wasn't for bad reasons, but I got kicked out of my apartment in 1999 and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I ended up buying a house. So it was one of the best things I ever did. And, I was glad I didn't think I could do it, but, working with my realtor at the time down in San Diego where I was living, where I was serving on active duty, he kind of helped me realize the dream and told me, no, you can make this happen, and I'll work with you to get it done. And I know that's what you all do. And so thank you for that. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions or any concerns. We're here to help and we're here to support you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for everything you do. And thank you for your service. Please stay healthy and stay well.
Thanks. And I like the new stash and beard you got going there, Rick.
Thank you, Congressman, and
Your
hopefully the boys have-
COVID look.
Yeah, I call it the COVID first time in all those years, but did you get the boys enrolled in kindergarten now?
They're in school. Yeah, I'm hoping, look, when you talk about getting back to normal, right? It's, they had wanted to play baseball. This was their first year at Little League and it got shut down like 3 games in. So, we want to get back to an area where we can put kids back on the Little League field again and other sports and things like that. So, but,
We'll adapt.
yeah,
We'll
the
survive.
family's
We
good.
always do.
We will. You're right. But the family's good. And thank you for asking, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
sir.
Congressman.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, how do we do this? Okay, I guess that's our event. Thank you, everybody, for attending, for all your support. Please keep in mind we have our website where you can access all the ballot measures for California. Christine and Tim have been kind to provide a simple explanation so that you can have a better understanding of what you're voting on. And with that, I think we're done. Everybody stay healthy, everybody stay well. And thank you. Make sure to vote.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.